In the last episode, I went through Saudi Arabia, took a little detour to Bahrain, was forced to smash my drone up at customs, and had a jolly old time in Kuwait. And the last thing I did was prepare myself to cross the Iraqi border, very shortly after a bunch of drone strikes just happened. So let's see how that panned out. Now the border between Kuwait and Iraq can only be described in one way. An absolute bloody mess. You've basically got a roundabout in the middle, a bunch of buildings built around the outside, some of them temporary, and some of them that can't even be described as buildings. More on that later. And when you enter, you have to be greeted by a bunch of military guys who speak no English and write your name on a piece of paper that you have no idea what it says. Then you have to introduce yourself to the Dungeon Master. Now this guy sits in his throne in this little temporary office, surrounded by military guys, presumably to stop corruption, but who knows. Anyway, this guy sends you on several different side quests to get different documents and stamps, and only then can you pass into Iraq. So step 1 is buying the visa. You do that in this little office here, not on this side, no, you have to do it on this side of the building. Who knows why? Now as soon as you leave the Dungeon Master's office, you are swarmed by fixers. Annoying little guys trying to get your money for helping you through the border. Luckily for me, one of the Dungeon Master's sidekicks hates fixers, and he absolutely bent over backwards to make sure that I wouldn't give them any money, because I hate fixers too. We bonded over this with no verbal understanding. You then have to go and get your documents photocopied in this weird little temporary building here. And to add a little plot twist, they only accept US dollars. Anyway, after this, you have to go on an adventure. And this adventure involves paying a fee. I have no idea what it was for, but everyone has to pay it. And you have to take a 5-minute hike through the desert, climb over some weird broken buildings and fences, and then enter this weird little cave building, where you pay your fee, only in US dollars, and then scramble your way back to the Dungeon Master. Only then will he then let you into Iraq, but not before they search through every single belonging you've taken with you, in customs. And customs is just some guy standing outside with a clipboard. Anyway, after all this was done, I had all my stamps, I got on my bike, blew a kiss towards the fixers who hated me for not giving them any money, and went about my merry way. So now I'm in Iraq, and slightly annoyed by the fixers, in case you can't tell.
Oh, these little motherfuckers are horrible little people. This is about as bad as the Zambia border was, with all hundreds of these fixers around trying to get you to give them money for doing something that should be a relatively easy process. So the language barrier here is massive, and you can't really pay with card, supposedly anyway, that's what they say. And yeah, absolute bloody nightmare. It only took me a couple of hours to do everything by myself, but you have to find these weird obscure officers and, you know, all kinds of things. But the worst thing are these little fuckers trying to get your money for helping at the border. Avoid them at all costs. Anyway, we should be good for Iraq. Got all my tickets, got all my insurance, got whatever. What's this guy asking me to do? Salam. Passport? You want a carnet? This one? So I give to the gate? Okay. Shukran. So welcome to Iraq. So I'm at this bit of the border now, and I'm going to head straight to Basra, which has got a nice little stigma attached to it. Anyway, you might remember this guy from here and here. And unfortunately, this fine gentleman decided that his bike was going to shit itself in the worst possible country to have it happen, where there's an abundance of spare parts. So over the last few months, he's gleaned these parts from various places and finally got the parts. But Jeff is not the sort of guy to fit his own parts, and finding a reliable workshop in this country is apparently a bit of a struggle. So, in exchange for accommodation, food, and hilarious Iraqi entertainment that we're about to find out, hello there, dog, I'm going to this place.
It's at this point, it's appropriate to introduce the Ice Cream Bros. Now I showed up on their doorstep and was greeted like we'd known each other for decades. I was given a place to stay, food to eat, and some of the most hilarious interactions I've ever experienced on this trip.
Like, it's embarrassing for him if he gives us all blowjobs. But that's really gay though. What? It's gay!
Now in Iraq, English is one of those languages that's a luxury when it's there, but you never expect everyone to speak it. However, in the ice cream shop, there is one communal English phrase,
Hey, what's up?
which is known by all.
Hey, what's up, Jeff?
Hey, what's up?
Now, I first met Jeff in South Africa. I then met him again in Bahrain. And now I'm meeting him for the third time in Iraq. I have still never seen Jeff ride a bike. And this time his excuse is his bike's broken. So I'm going to fix it for him. This was an ordeal unto itself.
Habibi Mekaniki. Habibi Mekaniki. Maniki. Mekaniki. Fuck!
This one goes in there, right?
Zain Habibi. 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 How are you? Oh. Motherfucker. Osama bin Laden.
Tonic.
Yalla, Habibi. Yalla.
Hey!
Was that the one you were worried about?
A little bit.
Okay. As long as it's in the back. These are the worst conditions under which you've ever worked.
I've been on submarines, boy. This sounds like it's at the bottom.
With the submarine submersed.
Do you want to add the sound effect?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Proper sound effects.
Zain, Habibi.
Where?
Yes.
Yalla, Habibi. Yalla. يلا
يلا
انت تمام هل انت تمام
I don't know what these words mean.
I said how are you my friend?
You said in such an angry way that it makes me seem like I'm in trouble.
And then لا خلاص
خلاص
خلاص يلا يلا let me see your right hand.
Circle the right hand.
Or your left hand, sorry.
That's one in the stink and one in the bike.
You say the teen?
It's the team.
Oh, I thought you said the teen with an N.
That works as well.
Only for 2 years. Beyond 2 years of teenager. It doesn't work so well anymore.
Souvenir.
I like the way you rip open the rubber with your teeth right before you ram it in the hole. It's real nice. Make sure that Jan does your bike transport from the grave.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
That's how I'll haunt you.
Fuck Aeon shipping.
Well-aimed brute force.
Oh, that's perfect.
Don't put your hand on my... No.
It's okay, round 2. But it's still dripping.
How's your confidence level so far?
I would give it this scooter out of 10 in terms of confidence. It's got pedals.
That doesn't leave me very confident.
No, it shouldn't.
Oh, fuck.
If I take this out, is this bike going to fall on top of me?
I have like lube for like chains and stuff. Will that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Just something to put on there so it's the seal's not running dry.
And after all that ruckus, I was finally able to see him ride for the first time. For about 5 seconds, until he vanished and didn't come back for half an hour. And then we found him, pulled over by the military, being questioned about his passport, which he wasn't carrying with him. So to this day, I've still never ridden a bike with Jeff on the same bit of road. Now, as much as I'd love to have stayed longer in Basra, crap shipping company syndrome strikes again. And because they were unable to renew my carnet, I only had about 7 days from this point to get out the top of Iraq and into Turkey. So I made my way from Basra all the way up to Baghdad. And along the way, I was forced to stop at a very, very questionable fuel station in the middle of bloody nowhere. This is where my second biggest problem of this entire trip began.
They won't let me fill my bike up at the fuel station. For some reason, bikes aren't allowed, so they just give you a fucking jug like this. I've had to make a funnel out of some drinks bottle. Well, I think at least some of that fuel went in the bike. I reckon I probably lost about 2 or 3 litres there. Not sure what happened there. I hope I haven't just filled up my bike with a bunch of shitty fuel. But fuck, it just... Oh shit. This is less than optimal. bike is really not happy. That was shitty fuel I've just put in here. I don't know what to do, to be honest. I'm just going to have to keep it running as much as I can. I think there might have been water in the bottom of that thing. Get it going on some antiperspirant. This is horrible. Just keep the revs up. Nope, it's fucked. Oh, this is horrendous. I've definitely put some shitty fuel in this. There must have been water or something. I've just got to keep the revs to the, pinned to the moon to be able to go, and it doesn't cut out anymore. And it keeps, surging like fuck. I'm hoping that eventually it'll kind of clear itself out, but I don't feel very comfortable revving this thing to 5,000 every time. If it's got to be done, it's got to be done. I mean, there can't be that much water in there, surely. I put about 20 litres in. I mean, who knows what was in there. Fuck. If I can get to Basra like this, I'll be amazed, and then at least I'll be able to siphon this out. I mean, that was terrifying for a moment. It sort of got to the stage where the battery was about to run out. It did that thing where it sounded like a hydro lock, but it's just that your motor doesn't have enough berries to turn the engine. Oh my god, this is the last place I want to be stopping. Come on, have a little shake. Every time it kind of cuts out, I give the bike a little shake and it'll, I don't know, slosh some fuel down into the injector or something, but this is the least ideal situation I think I have had. Come on, clear your guts. 232 kilometers of this to go.
Now I told the ice cream bros about my plight, and they told me this.
You probably can't read that, but it basically says, if you buy some fuels out here, they mix it with water. Great! But I've got my throttle response back now. I get the occasional shudder and it cuts out, and then I just give it a shake like this, and then it'll work again for a few tens of kilometers. So, yeah. If I break down again, I guess you'll see more video of this. But until then, I will end up in Baghdad at some point today, hopefully while it's still light.
Well, what a bloody drama that was. I've got to my hotel in Basra now. Not Basra, Baghdad, after a horrible ride. I'll probably put this bit after the bit where I had that dodgy fuel, and basically what's happened is I think there's a load of water in my fuel, and it just basically made the bike cut out. And I was stuck there basically in the middle of the desert, no one around to speak any English, no one could really help me, so I just didn't even bother trying. The bike was just cranking over, not firing at all, and the only thing I could really do is spray deodorant into the intake to get it to start. And I had to do that until the water had passed through and the fuel had started mixing it again. So what I was doing is having to do some kind of massive three-way operation where I'd hold down the starter button, spray the deodorant in the intake, and then shake the bike to get the fuel to kind of mix with the water to sort of, dilute the water, I guess, if that makes sense. And this would not be possible without Nivea for Men. So sponsor me, please. Carry one of these if you need to start your bike in an emergency. Present day me here. Now I sent an email to Nivea telling them exactly what happened and how their product basically saved me from the desert. They responded by telling me that my skin must be pretty bad after being in the desert for so long, and they sent me a bunch of products to get over it. So thanks, Nivea. Anyway, that's enough of sounding like an entitled damsel in distress. I continued my journey north in the direction of Turkey and passed into Kurdistan. And this is what's considered the safe half of Iraq. And similarly to Africa, entering into this region is essentially a new country. Everything goes from desert to starting to see traces of green. But sadly, the military checkpoints keep popping up every now and then.
Salam. These military checkpoints are getting a little bit more intense. It's almost annoying now because they kind of stop you every single time, but they're searching for more and more and more. This guy actually made a phone call to the border to make sure my insurance was actually legitimate, which it was, luckily, because it only cost $7. So I'm not really going to skimp out on that, but yeah, I guess the further towards the safer bit, the more strict they get on the security. So come on, quad lock. So yeah, hopefully that's the last one for a while because these are getting a bit annoying.
Now, as I approached the Turkish border, I met another bike traveller, and this was a refreshing turn of events, because border crossings can be pretty troublesome at times, and it was pretty refreshing to have some company throughout the process. But after crossing the border, we ended up in what was potentially an extremely dangerous situation, of which you'll find out in the next episode. But this is where I leave you today, with your hand hovering over the bloody subscribe button. And I promise that the next episode contains less damsel in distress syndrome. However, if you find yourself in Basra, take your time to visit the ice labs, open the doors, and yell your best, "Hey, what's up?"
Hey, what's up?
And they'll know exactly where you came from, and you'll experience some of the best hospitality and ice cream you've ever had in your life. So do it.
A Pokemon.
Oh, just like